Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most shocking developments in the ongoing global conflict. Reports are emerging that a new country has officially joined the war, triggering a wave of rapid troop deployments and strategic shifts that could change everything. What seemed like a localized struggle is now expanding into a broader confrontation that could reshape the balance of power worldwide. This isn't just about alliances or diplomacy anymore. This is real military movement, and the implications are enormous. Over the past several weeks, tensions have been building across multiple fronts. Nations that had previously maintained neutrality are now being pulled into the conflict, whether by political pressure, economic interest, or regional security threats. The latest reports confirm that this new entrant has committed troops, logistics, and intelligence support to one side, effectively ending its status as a bystander. The move caught several intelligence agencies off guard, as there were no clear indications that this country was preparing for active participation. But satellite images, leaked communications, and ground-level confirmations now make it undeniable this country is in. Military analysts are calling this one of the most significant escalations since the conflict began. The entry of a new player doesn't just add manpower, it adds new technology, new strategies, and new fronts that existing forces must adapt to. Within hours of the announcement, there were signs of rapid troop mobilizations, aircraft deployments, and naval positioning across key regions. Transport planes have been spotted moving heavy equipment, while long convoys of armored vehicles have been reported heading toward potential combat zones. These are not routine drills. This is the kind of large-scale mobilization that signals serious intent. The timing of this intervention raises serious questions. Why now? What strategic or political calculation pushed this country to step into the fire? Some experts believe it's a matter of self-preservation. Remaining neutral in an increasingly polarized world may have become too risky. Others suggest that the nation has been quietly preparing for months, waiting for the right moment to act when the balance of power began to shift. Whatever the motivation, one thing is clear. The geopolitical map is being redrawn in real time. Leaked intelligence suggests that secret negotiations took place weeks before the public announcement. High-ranking defense officials reportedly met in undisclosed locations to finalize the logistics of deployment. Documents and intercepted communications indicate that weapons deals were signed in haste, with aircraft and drones shipped under humanitarian or training covers. Now, those same drones and weapons are being deployed on the battlefield. The rapid transition from discussion to action caught even allied forces by surprise, highlighting just how quickly global dynamics can change when pressure mounts. For the nations already involved in the conflict, this new development changes the calculus dramatically. Suddenly, their enemy or ally network looks very different. Supply chains will need to adapt, command structures will shift, and diplomatic strategies must evolve overnight. The introduction of new military technologies and tactics will challenge existing doctrines and force rapid innovation. This is no longer the same war. It's evolving into something far larger and far more unpredictable. On the ground, local populations are feeling the immediate effects. Border regions near the deployment zones are seeing massive military traffic. Fields that once grew crops are now serving as staging grounds for armored units. Airfields are buzzing with constant takeoffs and landings, and reports indicate that coastal naval bases are operating around the clock. Satellite footage even shows the construction of temporary camps and supply depots near key border crossings. Every sign points to a long-term operation, not a symbolic show of force. Meanwhile, reactions from global leaders have been swift and divided. Some have condemned the move as reckless, warning that it risks dragging the world closer to a full-scale global war. Others have praised it as a necessary act of defense against aggression. Social media has exploded with speculation, fear, and misinformation, making it harder for ordinary citizens to separate truth from propaganda. Analysts are urging calm, but the truth is that once troop movements begin at this scale, the situation tends to spiral faster than anyone expects. Financial markets are already responding. Energy prices have spiked as investors brace for disruptions in supply lines. Defense stocks have surged while currencies in the region are under pressure. This economic turbulence adds another layer to the crises, showing how interconnected the world has become. A single nation's decision to deploy troops can send shockwaves through global trade, financial systems, and energy infrastructure. The domino effect of this decision may last far longer than the conflict itself. From a strategic standpoint, the country's geographic position makes its involvement particularly significant. Its borders provide direct access to critical trade routes, energy pipelines, and strategic choke points that could shift control of entire regions. The deployment also gives its allies a logistical advantage, allowing faster resupply, surveillance coverage, and tactical coordination. Military experts suggest that this could open up entirely new fronts in the war, forcing opposing forces to stretch their resources thinner than ever before. The speed and efficiency of this deployment are raising eyebrows among military observers. Mobilizing thousands of troops, armored vehicles, and air support in such a short time suggests long-term preparation. Many now suspect that this country had been quietly preparing for active engagement for months, possibly even years. The suddenness of the announcement was likely deliberate, a move designed to shock adversaries and gain the element of surprise. By the time the world realized what was happening, the troops were already on the ground. Public reaction within the country itself has been mixed. Government media outlets are portraying the intervention as a patriotic duty and a necessary measure for national security. However, independent voices and online commentators are expressing concern about the risks and potential consequences. Many citizens fear the conflict could come home through retaliatory strikes, cyber attacks, or economic sanctions. There's a growing sense of uncertainty as people try to understand what this war means for their future, their economy, and their safety. On the international stage, alliances are being tested like never before. Nations that once stood firm in neutrality are being pressured to choose sides. Some may follow the new entrant's lead, while others might withdraw support to avoid escalation. Diplomatic channels are overwhelmed with emergency calls, summits, and crisis meetings. The United Nations has called for restraint, but the effectiveness of such appeals is questionable when real deployments are already underway. The world is watching to see whether cooler heads will prevail, or if this marks the beginning of a much larger confrontation. Behind the scenes, intelligence agencies are working around the clock to analyze the implications. Spy satellites are monitoring movement patterns, communication intercepts are being studied, and cybersecurity divisions are bracing for coordinated digital offensives. The fear isn't just about military escalation, it's about the possibility of hybrid warfare where traditional combat blends with cyber operations, disinformation campaigns, and economic manipulation. The modern battlefield is not just physical, it's digital, and this new player knows how to fight in both domains. Some experts believe this move may also be intended as a signal to rival powers. By entering the conflict decisively, the country is sending a message. It will not remain passive while its strategic interests are threatened. This could be a calculated show of strength meant to deter future interference or to establish dominance in a contested region. In international politics, perception often matters as much as action. and this deployment may be as much about global image as it is about battlefield success. However, such bold moves rarely come without risks. The new entrant now faces the challenge of sustaining its operations. Supply chains will be stretched, domestic economies could face sanctions, and public support might wane if casualties mount. History has shown that rapid intervention often leads to long-term entanglement, and pulling out later becomes far more difficult. Analysts warn that unless the objectives are clear and achievable, the country could find itself trapped in a prolonged and costly conflict. In neighboring countries, there's growing concern about spillover effects. Refugees are already beginning to move across borders, seeking safety from potential fighting zones. Local economies are bracing for disruptions, and regional militaries are on high alert. Air defense systems have been activated, and civilian air traffic is being rerouted to avoid conflict zones. Even those not directly involved are feeling the pressure, as the risk of miscalculation or accidental confrontation increases dramatically. Meanwhile, the rapid troop deployment itself is under intense scrutiny. Logistics experts are analyzing how such a massive operation was executed so seamlessly. The coordination between air, land, and sea assets indicates a high level of planning and technological capability. Drones are playing a central role, both in reconnaissance and active combat. Real-time data sharing, satellite coordination, and AI-assisted targeting suggest this is not just another regional military. It's a modern, networked force capable of global-level operations. The reaction from rival nations has been swift. Military exercises have intensified, and high-ranking officials are warning of countermeasures if the situation escalates further. There's talk of new sanctions, military aid packages, and defensive coalitions forming in response. The world seems to be entering a new phase of tension, one that could resemble a modern Cold War, where every action triggers an equal and opposite reaction. But despite all the fear and speculation, there are also voices calling for diplomacy. Some international mediators believe that this might still be a turning point for negotiation rather than escalation. If both sides recognize the dangers of a prolonged confrontation, they might be willing to step back from the brink. But that outcome depends on political will, a rare commodity in times of war. As we watch this situation unfold, one truth stands out: global stability is more fragile than ever. A single country's decision can ripple across continents, affecting economies, security, and the lives of millions. The entry of this new nation into the war is not just another headline. It's a historic moment that could define the next decade of international relations. The world order we once knew is shifting, and the consequences of today's decisions will echo far into the future. For now, all eyes are on the deployment zones. Troops continue to move, alliances continue to harden, and the hope for de-escalation grows thinner by the hour. The question that remains is simple but terrifying. Will this expansion of the war mark the beginning of a larger global conflict? Or will it serve as the wake-up call the world needs to pull back from the edge? Time will tell, but one thing is certain: nothing will ever be the same again,